You seem to have had a change of heart in your attitude toward Negro leaders in the civil rights movement. What position are you taking now?
Well, I think that the problem itself is so big that all of the so-called Negro leaders should try some way to forget our differences. I'm willing to forget anything that any Negro leader has ever said bad about me. And as I said earlier, I am praying that they will also be able to forget the many bad things that I've said about them.
We are African, and we happen to be in America. We're not American. We are people who formerly were Africans who were kidnapped and brought to America. Our forefathers weren't the Pilgrims. We didn't land on Plymouth Rock. The rock was landed on us. We were brought here against our will. We were not brought here to be made citizens. Now that we've become awakened to some degree and we begin to ask for those things which they say are supposedly for Americans, they look upon us with hostility and unfriendliness. So our unwanted presence, the fact that we are unwanted, is becoming magnified.
I've always known that Master W.D. Farad is Allah. I believe that Master W.D. Farad is Allah, and I believe that you are his messenger. I believe that your program is right, and I believe that your teachings are right, and that it was my belief in this that made me as successful as I was. Especially it was my firm belief in this that enabled me to stand up in the face of all opposition on television, on radio, before colleges, and before people out in the street at mass rallies, and support your program and present your program and represent your program. It was my faith in it that enabled me to represent it.
Uncle Toms are, and you'll find the house Negro. Go where the Negro leaders are, and you'll find the house Negro. Let us remember that we are not brutalized because we're Baptists. We're not brutalized because we're Methodists. We're not brutalized because we're Muslims. We're not brutalized because we're Catholics. We're brutalized because we are black people in America.
The most active person in the spreading of the black Muslim movement is Elijah Muhammad's second in command, who calls himself Malcolm X. And Malcolm X is our guest today on City Desk.
How did you happen to join the Muslim movement?
I was in prison. I was a very wayward, criminal, backward, illiterate, uneducated type of person until I heard the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And he teaches us that because of the seriousness of the condition that our people now find themselves in, the only way that we can solve our problem is to unite together among ourselves, among our own kind, and try and solve our problem ourselves.
What is your real name?
Malcolm X.
Is that your legal name?
As far as I'm concerned, it's my legal name.
Have you been to court to establish this?
I didn't have to go to court to be called Murphy or Jones or Smith. Excuse me for answering you this way.
That's
all right.
If
a Chinese person were to be walking around named Murphy or Jones or Johnson or Bunch or Powell, I think it would be just as improper for a black person.
Would you mind telling me what your father's last name was?
The last name of my forefathers was taken from them when they were brought to America and made slaves. And then the name of the slave master was given, which we refuse. We reject that name today.
You mean you won't even tell me what your father's supposed last name was or gifted last name was?
I never acknowledge it whatsoever.
I don't believe in segregation. I believe in slavery.
A group of Negro dissenters is taking to street corner step ladders, church pulpits, sports arenas, and ballroom platforms across the United States. They have their own parochial schools, like this one in Chicago. They have their own stores, supermarkets, restaurants. 5 times a year, the Muslims assemble in one of America's major cities to hear their leader, Elijah Muhammad. Every devout Muslim is eager to attend these meetings for some time between now and 1970, and at just such a rally as this, the Muslim leader has intimated that he will give the call for the destruction of the white man.
This coming destruction of the white man, will there be any bloodshed involved in this, or will it be a complete mental thing?
According to the teachings of the prophets of old and of God himself, there will be plenty of bloodshed.
The Christian religion has failed you. You want freedom, you want equality, but get none.
Some years ago, when I first studied the Gandhian philosophy and the method of nonviolent resistance, I came to the conclusion that it was the most potent weapon available to oppress people in their struggle for freedom and human dignity.
75 police came over to kill all that they could of my followers. In Los Angeles, California last year, the police shot Ronald Stokes through the heart.
Although we are not integrationists, and we believe that you're a fool to try and mix with someone who doesn't love you, that doesn't mean that we in any way condone what those crackers are doing in Birmingham, Alabama. Our people should know better, that whenever you try and force yourself upon someone that vicious, he's going to go to extreme to show you that he's actually the dog that he is. Because it's the two-legged dog that controls the four-legged dog. And it is no accident that as long as the dogs were biting Negro women, Negro babies, and Negro children, Kennedy said nothing.
And March number 27. We know that we're going to lose a few, but we know that God's going to kill all of you.
In order for you and me to devise some kind of method or strategy to offset some of the events or a repetition of the events that have taken place here in Los Angeles recently, we have to go to the root. We have to go to the cause. Dealing with the condition itself is not enough. And it is because of our effort toward getting straight to the root that people oftentimes think we're dealing in hate.
Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? So much so that you don't want to be around each other. No, before you come asking Mr. Muhammad, does he teach hate, you should ask yourself, who taught you to hate being what God gave you? And I, for one, as a Muslim, believe that the white man is intelligent enough. If he were made to realize how black people really feel and how fed up we are without that old compromise and sweet talk. Stop sweet talking him. Tell him how you feel. Tell him what kind of hell you've been catching, and let him know that if he's not ready to clean his house up, if he's not ready to clean his house up, he shouldn't have a house. It should catch on fire and burn down.
Everyone is voting for Jack, 'cause he's got what all the rest lack. Everyone wants to back Jack. Jack is on the right track, 'cause he's got...
The hard-fought presidential campaign of 1960. John Kennedy and Richard Nixon did not differ much in their moderate support for civil rights. Both candidates also looked to the white South for votes.
And when I say Kennedy, I mean John F. Kennedy.
But civil rights did become a campaign issue when Martin Luther King was arrested at a student sit-in in Atlanta. King sentenced to 4 months hard labor enraged the black community. Kennedy and Nixon were still wary of losing Southern white votes and avoided making public statements. But privately, Kennedy and his staff felt they had to take action.
There's Martin Luther King sitting in a county jail, and Kennedy wanted to do something, to say something. Finally, some of us had the idea that Kennedy might just call Mrs. King and express his sympathy and tell her what he was doing to get King out of jail.
He said, I'm thinking about you and your husband, and I know this must be very difficult for you. If there's anything I can do to be of help, I want you to please feel free to call on me. And I didn't quite know what to say except to thank him and say, well, I really appreciate this. And if there is anything that you can do, I would deeply appreciate it.
The man who promised all the American so-called Negroes who vote what he was going to do for them when he got in office.
Many of us felt that Kennedy's commitment to civil rights was political, that it was a device to get him elected, because in the first 6 to 8 months he had done very little.
Robert Kennedy called the judge in Georgia and called him to get that judge to get King out of jail.
The Kennedy phone calls proved to be a smart political move. The next day, King was released on bail. On the Sunday before Election Day, black ministers around the country endorsed Kennedy from their pulpits. It was to be one of the closest elections in American history, with John Kennedy winning by less than 2/3 of 1% of the popular vote.
And has yet to do the first thing that he promised.
During the campaign, he had indicated that there was one whole area of discrimination that the president could wipe out with merely a stroke of the pen, and that was the area of public housing discrimination. And if elected, he would use that stroke of the pen by issuing an executive order that would do the job. Well, we waited for more than a year for that stroke of the pen, then decided that his pen must have run dry.
But has paid off the Negro leadership so that they are silent and say nothing about the promises that he originally made to get Negroes to vote for him.
One white man named Lincoln supposedly fought the Civil War to solve the race problem, and the problem is still here. Then another white man named Kennedy came along running for president and told Negroes what all he was going to do for them if they voted for him, and they voted for him 80%. He's been in office now for 3 years, and the problem is still here.
President, who himself was discriminated against for a long time and accused Protestants of practicing religious discrimination, I think that he is way out of line to use his position now as the first Catholic president to open up his mouth against a religious group here in this country that is headed by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. If he's not going to open up his mouth and outright condemn the Citizens Council by name, and condemn the Ku Klux Klan by name, and condemn the white Masonic order, which is all white, by name, and the white churches in the South by name, then Kennedy is wrong to point at the Muslims because we are black and because we don't want to mix with the people down there. And I should say that when we express our desire not to mix with whites, they call us a hate group. And Martin Luther King is running around here telling Negroes to love all kind of white people, and they sick dogs on Martin.
Good evening, my fellow citizens. This nation was founded by men of many nations and backgrounds. It was founded on the principle that all men are created equal. But are we to say to the world, and much more importantly, to each other, that this is a land of the free, except for the Negroes? That we have no second-class citizens, except Negroes? Today we are committed to a worldwide struggle to promote and protect the rights of all who wish to be free.
First reaction from the generally recognized Negro leadership, Martin Luther King.
I feel that it was a masterpiece. I think that the president spoke passionately to the moral issues in the integration struggle, and I think he made it very clear that the government, the administration, will now engage in vigorous, forthright action to bring about the realization of the American dream.
The man didn't say anything
until he found out that black people in this country were ready to explode. And as soon as he saw that the explosion then was a threat to the white society, he came up with this mealy-mouthed speech. You will never get real freedom and recognition between black and white people in this country without rewriting the entire Constitution. It'll be a complete destruction of everything that America supposedly stands for.
Evil. Who makes the whiskey that you get drunk with? Who makes the cards that you gamble with? Who brings the dope into this country that you've become addicted to? Who has created the slum and the ghetto that you're living in? Nothing but a devil.
I'm real thankful of my brother, Malcolm. Yes, sir. Mark here. Why, this is a real disciple. You will have to kill this one.
Because nothing in our book, the Quran, teaches us to suffer peacefully. Our religion teaches us to be intelligent, be peaceful, be courteous, obey the law, respect everyone. But if someone puts his hand on you, send him to the cemetery. Look at the American Revolution in 1776. That revolution was for what? For land. The landless against the landlord. How did they bring it about? Bloodshed. You haven't got a revolution that doesn't involve bloodshed. And you're afraid to bleed. As long as the white man sent you to Korea, you bled. He sent you to Germany, you bled. But when it comes time for seeing your own churches being bombed and little black girls murdered, you haven't got no blood.
We all was shocked at hearing of the study end of our president. We all were so shocked over the president, we just suspended all public speaking this year.
Malcolm X, second in command of the Black Muslim movement, expressed joy at the assassination of President Kennedy at a Manhattan rally last Sunday. Malcolm said that the killing of the president was an instance of the chickens coming home to roost. In Chicago today, Elijah Muhammad, the leader of the anti-white Muslim movement, suspended Malcolm X and disavowed his statement.
Well, I've been silent for the past 90 days because of some statements I made concerning the President of the United States, which were distorted. They were distorted. And yes. What did you say, Malcolm? Well, I said the same thing that everybody says, that his assassination was the result of the climate of hate. But only I said the chickens came home to roost, and which means the same thing.
You feel that we're making progress in this country?
No. If you stick a knife in my back 9 inches and pull it out 6 inches, there's no progress. If you pull it all the way out, that's not progress. The progress is healing the wound that the blow made, and they haven't even begun to pull a knife out, much less try and heal the wound. They won't even admit the knife is there.
Mr. Malcolm, you have been observing the events in the Senate gallery, from the Senate gallery today. What do you think of what's happening there?
Well, it shows that our people will be around a long time listening to others debate whether or not they're going to be acceptable as citizens in this country. And it's a shame for the President of the United States, who's the titular head of the Democratic Party and has, I think, a 2/3 majority in both the House and the Senate, not to come on in here and do something besides talk to see that this bill is passed, if that's what he's for, and if that is what others are for.
Are you for this bill?
I'm for freedom, justice, and equality for black people in this country. And since the liberal element of whites claim that they are for civil rights legislation, I have come down today to see, are they really for it, or is it just some more political chicanery that they're using to trick the Negroes into voting for them when the election rolls around this year?
Which is it?
Sir?
Are they sincere, or is it political chicanery?
Looks more like political chicanery.
You as a member, when you were a member of the Black Muslims, talked about Negroes returning to their homeland of Africa. And now Senator Russell has suggested that Negroes be voluntarily spread out across the United States. Do you think this would solve any of the problems?
No. Senator Russell is probably voicing in public that which most whites voice in private. It isn't that Senator Russell is saying this. It would probably be just as indigestible if it was said by anyone else.
You've been quoted as saying you feel there's a need for another march on Washington. Is that correct? And what type of a march?
I said that if the Civil Rights Bill, which is being used as political trickery to make Negroes think that there is an element of people in this country who want the Negroes to have their rights, if it runs into the same thing that the March on Washington ran into, which means it produces no results, the frustrations of black people in this country and their disenchantment with all of the political maneuvering and false promises of the politicians has reached a point where you will find a large number of people, probably both white as well as black, but a different element this time, coming back down to show their dissatisfaction.
Why do you feel that someone like Hubert Humphrey, who has such a small percentage of Negroes in his state, would be working as hard as he is for the Negro cause?
I don't see where Hubert Humphrey is working so hard for the Negro cause. It's not the Negro cause when you try and bring about independence for all people in this country. Any thinking person is working for the so-called American cause. It's not a cause. You're not working for my cause when you try and practice what you preach. You're working for the cause of that which you're preaching is supposed to be an example for people of the rest of this earth to follow.
Then the senator is working for the American cause.
The senator is a politician, and most politicians work for whatever cause is necessary to keep them in office.
But if the results are good for the Negro, why can you complain?
All of the promises that Humphrey and the others have made have yet to materialize. So when you find a senator and he's advocating something that's supposed to be good for a minority, and no matter how much he advocates it, that minority never sees that which he's advocating materialize. To me, it's just another political, political chicanery.
In his first address to Congress as president, Johnson said, "No memorial oration or eulogy could more eloquently honor President Kennedy's memory than the earliest passage of the Civil Rights Bill for which he fought so long." Johnson recognized that JFK's substantial income tax cut was hampering the Civil Rights Bill's progress. Johnson dislodged the tax bill by promising Harry Byrd that he would bring the national budget in below $100 billion. In doing so, he cleared the way for the Civil Rights Act, which passed the Rules Committee and House of Representatives with relative ease. The bill passed the Senate 77-23 and was signed into law on July 2, 1964. Although the bill didn't produce significant immediate improvements in the lives of Black Americans,
and I had stated in a newspaper article about an effort to take my life back in January, and at that time the Muslims denied it.
Why are they threatening your life?
Well, primarily because they're afraid that I will tell the real reason that I'm out of the Black Muslim movement, which I never told. I kept to myself. But the real reason is that Elijah Muhammad, the head of the movement, is the father of 8 children by 6 different teenage girls. 6 different teenage girls who were his private personal secretary. The one who first made me aware of this was Wallace Muhammad, Mr. Muhammad's son. And it was their fear that if I remained in the Black Muslim movement, and this came into the knowledge of his followers, that they would leave him and follow me. A plan immediately was set in motion to take me down, put me out, and the statement that I made about Kennedy was used as a pretext to take me down.
Did you get out of the... What will you take to protect yourself from this threat?
I take no steps. I have a rifle. If anybody comes to my house without a good reason, I intend to try and use it, and that's all.
Fortunately, while I was among the Muslims, I never lived beyond my means, and I have learned how to live within means. And I still have the clothes that that was provided for me at that time. I'm in the house that was provided for me, although we're in a court battle, they're trying to get it back. And I have made this statement to them concerning the house, that they could have it. If they would take me back, that they would permit me to come before the Muslim movement, the rank and file, and explain or defend myself against all of the charges that they've made against me, they could have the house.
Last year, 1964, was kind of bitter with us. Malcolm breaking out of the Brotherhood of Islam. It kindly upset us all, due to the fact that he had been such a wonderful brother among us. We regret to see the man leave on his own terms. He said he was going for himself.
There have been many of our people across the country from all walks of life who have taken it upon themselves to try and pool their ideas and to come up with some kind of solution to the problem that confronts all of our people. We want freedom by any means necessary. We want justice by any means necessary. We want equality by any means necessary. We don't feel that in 1964, living in a country that is supposedly based upon freedom and supposedly the leader of the free world, we don't think that we should have to sit around and wait for some segregationist congressmen and senators and a president from Texas in Washington, D.C. to make up their mind that our people are due now some degree of civil rights.
I think that the people in this part of the world would do well to listen to Dr. Martin Luther King and give him what he's asking for, and give it to him fast before some other factions come along and try to do it another way.
A firebomb was tossed into the home of Malcolm X here in New York City early this morning. The house was heavily damaged, but Malcolm X, his wife, and 4 children were not injured.
3 Molotov cocktails tossed into the home of Malcolm X today. He's the black nationalist leader who was broken away from the black Muslims.
I wanted you to know that my house was bombed. It was bombed by the black Muslim movement upon the orders of Elijah Muhammad. Now, they had planned to do it from the front and the back so that I couldn't get out. But had that one gone through that window, it would have fallen on a 6-year-old girl, a 4-year-old girl, and a 2-year-old girl. And I'm going to tell you, if it had done it, I'd taken my rifle and gone after anybody in sight. The only thing that I regret in all of this is that 2 black groups have to fight and kill each other off. Elijah Muhammad could stop the whole thing tomorrow just by raising his hand. Really, he could. He could stop the whole thing by raising his hand. But he won't. He doesn't love black people. He doesn't even love his own followers. Proof of which they're killing each other. They killed one in the Bronx. They shot another one in the Bronx. They tried to get 6 of us Sunday morning. And the pattern has developed across the country. The man has gone insane. Absolutely out of his mind. Besides, you can't be 70 years old and surround yourself by a handful of 16, 17, 18-year-old girls and keep your right mind.
Never any Muslim became involved in any kind of sexual relationship with someone to whom they weren't married. That person would be brought before the Muslim community, humiliated, and then isolated for from 1 to 5 years. This was our law.
And when he gave me his religious interpretation or explanation of it, I accepted it. But about 5 months went by, and Wallace pulled me aside again and told me that his father hadn't changed.
These men who are your brothers are making threats against your life?
No, because actually it's not their fault. Most of them, now Joseph and the officials, they have a knowledge of what it's all about. But the rank and file Muslim brother does not know what it's all about. They are out of religious sincerity. They think that they are doing the will of Allah.
But the real reason is that Elijah Muhammad, the head of the movement, is the father of 8 children by 6 different teenage girls. 6 different teenage girls who were his private personal secretary. The one who first made me aware of this was Wallace Muhammad, Mr. Muhammad's son. And it was their fear that if I remained in the black Muslim movement and this came into the knowledge of his followers, that they would leave him and follow me. A plan immediately was set in motion to take me down, put me out, and the statement that I made about Kennedy was used as a pretext to take me down.
Did you get out of the... What will you take to protect yourself from this threat?
I take no steps. I have a rifle. If anybody comes to my house without a good reason, I intend to try and use it.
Now, I am well aware of what I'm setting in motion by what I'm saying up here tonight. I'm well aware. But I have never said or done anything in my life that I wasn't prepared to suffer the consequences for.
The atmosphere was there. What was being said was there. See, you got to understand, Mr. Muhammad and what he represented.
Ballroom. Pandemonium is the only word that I can use to describe the scene here. I was sitting in the first row when Malcolm came on the stage and greeted the audience. Several persons, it happened so quickly I can't describe them, stood up and fired shots. Everybody dove for the floor. I dove myself and crawled over to the side trying to get out from the scene of the shots and crawled back along the balustrade as shots rang out all over the place as Malcolm's supporters tried to subdue those who had fired upon him. He's now laying on the stage. My agent tells me that he has been shot twice and that he is still alive, but feebly.
I saw people crawling on the floor, and so I got down too. Then when I was looking out and I saw someone looking amazement to the front. I knew they had shot my husband.
Could you give me your impressions? I know it's difficult for you to remember right now, but try to remember just exactly what happened.
Well, he had just got up to open up, and the two fellas, one was a black Muslim, and I don't know who the other one was because I didn't see him, ran and started shooting, and everybody fell to the floor. Yes, sir.
They were black?
Yes, sir. He got shot in his face and 3 times in the chest.
And these are the words. We were very shocked yesterday on hearing of Malcolm's death. We have known Malcolm for quite a few years. Last year, 1964, was kind of bitter with us. Malcolm breaking out of the Brotherhood of Islam.
He was a hero to me. He stood out among all black people. He showed the white man where it was at.
Why was he a hero?
He got respect.
That's
He meant something to me. That's why I'm down here.
That's right. What's going to happen now, do you think?
What's going to happen? You're going to get hurt. Your people, my people, it's going to be a whole lot of hurt before this whole thing is over. That's what I think.
Because
of this death. Whoever did it, Muslims or whoever did it, it's going to be a whole lot of hurt.
Mr. Muhammad, do you believe, before coming out of New York, that the assassin of Malcolm X was in allegiance with the Muslims in New York? How do you feel about that charge?
In fact, about it, that we have been trying to make investigations to find just where this assassin come from. And we have not been able to locate him. We don't know him. And
Mr. Muhammad, could you tell us what happened between you and Malcolm X? What was the point of disagreement, sir?
The most of our disagreement was Malcolm wanted to use arms.
Elijah Muhammad says of the Muslims, we carry no arms, and we do not seek to win victory with arms. We do nothing to others that we would not have done unto us.
Use what? He wanted to use arms, and I disagree with him because we have always, for many years now, it's 34 years now, we never resorted to arms.
When the Muslims were attacked in Monroe, Louisiana, Elijah Muhammad gave no signal to anybody across the nation to come to the defense of their brothers. When our brothers were attacked in Los Angeles, again, Elijah Muhammad gave no signal to anybody to come to the defense of those brothers. Never have the Muslims anywhere in the country gotten any kind of instruction from the national office or headquarters on how to defend themselves when they are attacked by outsiders.
And in fact, about it, that reminded me of that time and again, to never to pick up arms.
The only times the Muslims have ever been given any instructions to commit violence is when that violence is directed against a fellow Muslim. His followers are violent against Negroes.
Against Negroes?
Yes, his followers will go out and attack another Negro, like they will attack me, or they will brutalize a fellow Muslim who breaks the law. But you don't find those same followers going out and becoming involved in the Negro struggle in any way whatsoever.
Would you say flatly that no black Muslims were involved in the shooting of Malcolm X?
I wasn't there, but I don't believe that any of my followers had nothing to do with it at all. Because we don't even know this person.
Who do you think might have done it then? Who would have had reason?
I don't know. I have no knowledge of that.
Are you in fear of your own life?
No, sir.
Do you expect to keep the date you have next Friday, the speaking engagement?
I most certainly does.
Have you ever been threatened?
Yes, sir, many times.
Have you been threatened since Malcolm X was killed yesterday?
No more than what I heard.
Mr. Muhammad, with Malcolm X's split from your followers, whom will be your successor?
If Malcolm X would split from my followers.
With his having split and with his death, who will be your successor?
I don't know. I cannot tell what will happen after I die.
Well, Malcolm X said that the black Muslims were trying to kill him, and he was going to name those he thought would commit the crime yesterday before he was shot. Would you comment on that?
I don't have any knowledge of anyone trying to kill Malcolm.
Do you think the extremism of your own organization tends to direct people towards violence, and it ends up in acts such as the death of Malcolm X?
No, we had not, as I said, never resorted to no such thing as violence. Way I see it, Malcolm is the victim of his own preaching. He preached violence, and so he became the victim of it.
Mr. Muhammad, what did Malcolm X want to use arms for?
Well, you know much about that as I do. I saw it in the paper, and I heard him say these things on TV and over radio.
What will the result of this act of violence against Mr. Malcolm be to the entire black nationalist movement?
What was the result?
What do you think will happen now that you've had this murder?
I can't foretell the future of what might happen. But as far as we are concerned, we are going on as we always have.
Mr. Muhammad, would you take back into the black Muslim the persons who deserted and went with Malcolm X and are now leaderless? Would you welcome them back?
Well, certainly if they repent, well, certainly forgiveness is always, allowed.
Isn't there violence implicit in your organization when people have to be searched to come in like we were today?
Well, this has been our custom for many years. We cannot trust people coming in our places of assembly with arms and with whiskey and whatnot, and we have found all kinds of things on people. And we just don't allow that in our places of assembly.
Mr. Muhammad, how many members of the do you have in the black?
I could not tell if I was to be crushed the next minute.
Do you feel there might be serious trouble between your group and the Malcolm X followers?
No, I don't expect any trouble between us and Malcolm followers. I don't think Malcolm has too many followers.
Before his death, Malcolm made some rather serious moral charges against your group. Do you have any comment on those?
When you understand the makeup of the Muslim movement and the psychology of the Muslim movement, as long as if I myself, by having confidence in the leader of the Muslim movement, if someone came to me and I had no knowledge whatsoever of what had taken place and they told me what I'm saying, I would kill them myself. The only thing that would prevent me from killing someone who made a statement like this, they would have to be able to let me know that it's true. Now, if anyone had come to me other than Mr. Muhammad's son, I never would have believed it, even enough to look into it. But I had been around him so closely, I had seen indications of the reality of it, but my religious sincerity made me block it out of my mind.
Have you received threats on your life?
Oh, yes. I first received threats on my life in December. In December. No, not in December, in January. When it first became known that I had come back to New York and told the captain of the Fruit in New York, who was my right-hand man formerly, and also the secretary of the New York Mosque and the minister in Boston. When it became known that I had told them, then an effort was made to shut me up. One brother encouraged to go out to my house and shut me up. And fortunately, it was a brother who was well capable of doing so, but it was a brother who was highly intelligent. He was academically equipped to think for himself. And what he was told to do didn't add up. And fortunately, he was the one who put out a feeler to me to find out what was wrong. And I opened his eyes. And then he opened the eyes of the same crew whose job it is to do this kind of work.
You mean he was going to kill you?
Oh, yes. One of them was, an attempt was made to get one of them to wire my car with an explosive. That one is with me right now. Well, fortunately, while I was among the Muslims, I never lived beyond my means, and I have learned how to live within means. And I still have the clothes that that was provided for me at that time. I'm in the house that was provided for me, although we're in a court battle. They're trying to get it back. And I have made this statement to them concerning the house that they could have it. If they would take me back, that they would permit me to come before the Muslim movement, the rank and file, and explain or defend myself against all of the charges that they've made against me, they could have the house. But they are going contrary to their own laws by standing up in the mosque and indicting me but never giving me a chance to defend myself. And they say that no one can judge me but Mr. Muhammad. In this case, Mr. Muhammad can't sit as judge because he's involved in the case.
Elijah Muhammad says of the Muslims, we carry no arms, and we do not seek to win victory with arms. We do nothing to others that we would not have done unto us.
The two brothers were sent after me with revolvers by Joseph, the captain of the Fruit in New York. They were armed. When a Muslim is attacked, and you'll find this to be the pattern, when the Muslims were attacked in Monroe, Louisiana, Elijah Muhammad gave no signal to anybody across the nation to come to the defense of their brothers. When our brothers were attacked in Los Angeles, again, Elijah Muhammad gave no signal to anybody to come to the defense of those brothers. Never have the Muslims anywhere in the country gotten any kind of instruction from the national office or headquarters on how to defend themselves when they are attacked by outsiders. The only times the Muslims have ever been given any instructions to commit violence is when that violence is directed against a fellow Muslim. His followers are violent against Negroes.
Against Negroes?
Yes, his followers will go out and attack another Negro, like they will attack me, or they will brutalize a fellow Muslim who breaks the law. But you don't find those same followers going out and becoming involved in the Negro struggle in any way whatsoever.
No more what I have already said. I said God, Allah is the best knower of that.
Mr. Muhammad, Malcolm has said on several occasions, when he was still a very vital member of the Brotherhood of Islam, that you frequently looked into the future and received visions.
I've always known that Master W.D. Farad is Allah. I believe that Master W.D. Farad is Allah, and I believe that you are his messenger. I believe that your program is right, and I believe that your teachings are right, and that it was my belief in this that made me as successful as I was. Especially it was my firm belief in this that enabled me to stand up in the face of all opposition on television, on radio, before colleges, and before people out in the street at mass rallies, and support your program and present your program and represent your program. It was my faith in it that enabled me to represent it.
Did you receive any vision as to the ultimate end that Malcolm would meet? Did you have any sort of premonition that Malcolm would meet a violent end as he did?
No, I was in hope that Allah would chastise him and bring him back on his knees. That's what I was in hope of.
Your Holy Apostle, Assalamu alaikum. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent and Merciful, to whom all praise is due, whom we forever thank for giving us the most honorable and humble Elijah Muhammad as our divine leader, teacher, and guide. I want to put what I'm going to say to you on this tape for two purposes. Number one, I want to really apologize to you for having let you down, for the mistakes that I've made, especially during the past year. I want to confess my fault, confess my wrong. I want to confess my weaknesses. I want you to know that thanks to Allah and you, I'm able to see myself better now. I'm able to see my weaknesses better now and my shortcomings better now. I do believe that in seeing them better, it may be possible for me to overcome them and become a better person. At least I am praying to Allah that this is the case, and above all else,
I was in hope that Allah would chastise him and bring him back on his knees. That's what I was in hope of.
Were you hoping that he would come back to your...
Well, I knew that would be the ultimate if he lived. There's no other way for him, or nor any other hypocrite.
I'm praying to Allah to put mercy and forgiveness in your heart, and if you weren't merciful nor forgiving toward me, I could well understand it.
No, I was in hope that Allah would chastise him and bring him back on his knees.
Has any police force, sir, asked you for a statement?
On that subject here, Mr. Muhammad, even though you hoped he would be chastised, did you have any premonition that he would meet a violent death?
No. He blamed the Muslims on the firebombing of his New York home. Do you have a comment on that?
Well, he probably could charge us with such. But in every respect or evidence, it looks to me like he did the job himself.
The Nation of Islam accused Malcolm of setting fire to his own home rather than vacating as ordered by the court. Later that day, the nation's representative, Captain Joseph, inspected the scene.
Who bombed his house?
I don't know. All we know, it just got on fire.
Does Malcolm know who bombed his house?
I don't know. He never said. And if he did, he should have brought him to justice.
Mr. Muhammad, how did you intend to chastise him?
Chastise him?
Yes,
Not me, no. I didn't say I would chastise Malcolm.
Mr. Muhammad,
The chastising comes from Allah. Anyone, according to Quran, and we have had that manifest in our midst for several years.
Mr. Muhammad, did you say that Malcolm set fire to his own home?
No, I didn't say that.
Well, I want
I
to
say it
clarify
looks
that.
like he was the one.
What made it look like that?
Because that, according to the police report, he was the only one in there, and that was the liquid that would do a job like that. According to the paper.
His family was in the house with him.
Yes, according to the paper. I'm only going from what I read in the paper.
Sir, did you request the police guard around your home from the city?
Huh?
Did you request the police guard?
No, sir.
You say the police did not talk to you?
No, sir.
Did the FBI talk to you?
No, sir.
Mr. Muhammad, yesterday in a Wire story, a Muslim was quoted as saying that the chickens had come home to roost on Malcolm in reference to Malcolm's earlier statement about the assassination of President Kennedy. Do you feel a Muslim brother would make such a statement about Malcolm upon learning of his death?
Well, I don't know. I know nothing about who it was any more than you. I just heard that myself and read it.
Do you think any of your more prominent followers, such as Cassius Clay, are in any danger because of the
I don't know.
violence?
That's what I have to repeat continually. I don't know who it was.
Mr. Muhammad, what do you think is the big difference between your philosophy and Malcolm?
In fact about it, I'm the man that taught Malcolm what he knew about Islam. But I didn't teach him what he went for himself. I taught him Islam and the history of his people, my people, and others. As far as what he has gone for himself, I didn't teach him that.
This is American justice.
That's right.
This is American democracy. And those of you who are familiar with it know that in America, democracy is hypocrisy.
Right.
Now, if I'm wrong, put me in jail. But if you can't prove that a democracy is not hypocrisy, then don't put your hands on me. Democracy is hypocrisy. If democracy means freedom, why aren't our people free? If democracy means justice, why don't we have justice?
He's a saint, a god. He's my god. Yes, Malcolm X is a hero. Definitely.
I don't think violence solves any social problem. It only creates new and more complicated problems. I think it is also necessary to say that the assassination of Malcolm X was an unfortunate tragedy, and we haven't learned to disagree without being violently disagreeable.
The young generation of whites, blacks, browns, whatever else there is, you're living at a time of extremism, a time of revolution, a time when there's got to be a change. People in power have misused it, and I, for one, will join in with anyone, don't care what color you are, as long as you want to change this miserable condition that exists on this earth.
And in honoring him, we honor the best in ourselves. What we place in the ground is no more now a man, but a seed, which after the winter of discontent will come forth again to meet us. And we shall know him then for what he was and is.
Do you consider yourself militant?
I consider myself Malcolm.